Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Blacklight on Sports. My name is Charles Hallman,
I'm Dr. Mitchell-Palmer-McDonald.
and tonight we have a young man who has grown through the ranks of being a student athlete in high school, then a student athlete in college, and then taking his skills and adding it to helping young people get to their success as well as an educator and as administrator. So we welcome to our show tonight Giovan Jenkins, who is
Thank you.
the athletic director at Washburn High School in Minneapolis. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming back,
Th-
coming us tonight.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
Yeah,
much.
thanks
Thanks
for
for
having
having
me.
me. Yes, sir.
Giovanni, I've known you for forever.
Yes,
I've
sir.
known you since you were a young man growing up, and I see your growth. Did you ever see yourself being not an athletic director, being in a position to be able to give back to the community, give back to young people when you was growing up, and who was influential in your life that convinced you that might be something you want to do somewhere down the line?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes, I could see myself being influential in young people's life. I remember being a student athlete myself and understanding the nuances of just lining up right, having people at practice, making sure my teammates got to practice. I had a mother who was very influential in my life as a coach, and she coached us in multiple sports. A lot of people say their fathers are the ones who coached them, but my dad was like, I don't want to coach you guys. I want somebody else to coach you. So we had other coaches that stepped up, and my mother was very, like I said, influential to the point to where I would say, Mom, we have to go pick this kid up, or we have to do something to make sure this young person gets to practice or games and things like that. So at an early age, I knew that there were kids that were different than my brother and I that needed more help getting to certain things accomplished. And as a student athlete myself at a young age, I found myself as a captain, as a leader. And I knew that one day, both my parents are educators, so I knew that one day that I would possibly be in education, be a coach, or be some type of leader in leadership role myself.
Well, talk about your travels, so to speak. How do you get from, how you was able to get from A to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I started off here in South Minneapolis as a student athlete at Washburn High School. Born and raised here in South Minneapolis, and graduated in 1996 from Washburn High School. And from, like I said, from an early age, I knew that education was important to me, having educator parents. When I left Washburn High School and went up to North Dakota State College of Science in Wappington, North Dakota, I knew that I wanted to be a coach at some point. I knew that athletics was my key, was my way to get out of Minneapolis and then progress my career, whatever it be. At that point, I thought I wanted to go into hotel and restaurant management. Once I got there, I realized that hotel and restaurant management probably wasn't conducive to being successful as a coach. Those are both demanding professions. So I pivoted and went to education, became got a degree in physical education. It kind of makes sense. You know, you're going to be in a school, you want to be a coach, you want to lead, you want change young people's trajectory of their lives. And coaching and teaching are synonymous. That, you know, a coach is a teacher and a teacher is a coach. So I think I naturally fell into that role. I did end up graduating from Mankato State University, well, Minnesota State University Mankato is what it's called now. I have a non-teaching license, but it is in Fayette. So I took all the classes except for the teaching part of it. At that point, I had a daughter when I graduated in '01, and I was just excited to get done with school versus complete the teaching part of my license.
Mhm.
So for 19 years, I was an associate educator. I was a staff in a building that supported the classroom,
Mhm.
SEA, things like that. And not until 2021 did I have an opportunity, after being a associate educator or a support staff for so long, to step into the role of an athletic administrator here at Washburn High School after Reggie Perkins vacated the position to start his own business. And I never ever wanted to be an athletic administrator. I never wanted to be an athletic director. It's not something I thought of ever. I really wanted to chase my dreams of being a college coach or a coach at the professional level. after I exhausted my high school coaching opportunities. Um, I had a successful high school career that led me to ask at the University of Minnesota, would they allow me to come over and volunteer for them? And after Coach Kill allowed me to come over and volunteer for a couple years, Coach Kill transitioned to Coach Clay's when Coach Kill had his seizures and things like that,
Mhm.
his medical stuff. And then Coach Clay's was let go by the university, and then Coach Fleck came in, and I wasn't able to bridge that next transition with the new coach. So then I went over to Hallman University after that with Coach Chip Taylor, good brother over there, and he was recruiting. His first school he came to was Washburn High School when he took over at Hallman. So our relationship started when he started as a head coach, and that led me to when we got let go at Minnesota, just giving him a call, letting him know that I was interested in continuing to coach at the college level.
Mhm.
So I did, and one thing led to another. I stayed over there for a couple years, and just coaching at the D3 level to me was just like coaching at the high school level in terms of the amount of work you have to do just to get ready for a practice. At that level, you're pulling out the pads, you're doing everything in terms of breaking down the film, in terms of getting everything ready. So I decided to just go back to the high school game, go back to high school. I had an opportunity to accept my job back as a support staff at Washburn High School. One thing led to another, and now I'm here 4 years later, as going on my fourth year as an athletic administrator. And now I have an opportunity to coach at the high school level again because Minneapolis now allows the athletic administrators to coach if they can handle the job and their duties. So I took them up on it, and I'm back on the field this year for the first time in 4 seasons. So it feels really good.
Um, Now, it's really something when you can come back or you have the opportunity to come back to the high school where you went
Yeah.
and where you made your friends, you made your mark, you gained your skills or you honed your skills, not just athletically but academically.
Yes, sir.
Um, how does that? How does it feel? Sometimes it's always kind of a dream, to go back to where you were and become a leader and find yourself among people that helped you,
Yes, sir.
and now you're helping them,
Yes.
and you guys are colleagues now. But how did it feel? How does it feel to be back at Washburn of all places?
It feels great. You use the word dream, and I tell people every day that I'm living the dream. I tell people I'm also a dream manager for our young people.
Mm-hmm.
It's my job to facilitate whatever their growth is, academically, athletically, spiritually, socially. Um, that's my job. If I don't help them transition from point A to point B when they come in as freshmen. Some of them have dreams of being big time athletes.
Of
It's
course.
my job to help navigate and facilitate those dreams. For me personally, coming back into Washburn in '01 when I did, I knew the people that were there had my best interests and they welcomed me back with open arms.
Mm-hmm.
In the 23 years that I've been there, I've been able to welcome a bunch of young people back into the building. And to me, that means not only did we have a positive experience when we were there, but those of us that come back to the institution we once went to, we want to either A, continue on our positive experience, or we want to give back to others and make sure other people and ensure other people have a positive experience. And I think my the way I've set it up or the way I've been able to be a part of everything, that's kind of what I see. I see myself as an extension of the neighborhood. I see myself as an extension from these young people's households. And I just want them to have the best opportunity to fulfill all their dreams, both athletically and academically.
Okay.
Now, we know that Minneapolis public schools have experienced a lot of things over the years: attendance decline, uh, population shifts, those type of things. How have you seen Washburn move forward or move backwards since you in your 23 years of being there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Washburn is a special place. Washburn, yes, I'm an alumni of Washburn High School, but Washburn to me is a little diamond. It's in Minneapolis. Yes, it's in South Minneapolis. It's almost as far south as you can go until you get to Richfield. But at the same time, the amount of classroom disruptions and things we have are very minimal. The amount of things that go on negatively within our building are minimal, and I think that's because of the continuity and the amount of people that do come back to our building and work in our building and stay in our building. We have very little turnover. I mean, I think I can count on one hand right now at least 5 to 10 of us that have been there for 10 plus years, and I've been there for 23 myself. So when you have staff in really important places, in your counseling office, in your administrative circle, in your athletic department, things like that, because we all know that athletics is the number one dropout prevention program in any institution. You can say athletics and you can say the arts and you can say extracurricular activities,
Yeah.
but the numbers show that there are more people that play athletics that participate in athletics. So for athletics being your number one dropout prevention program in your institution, it's important that our athletics remain strong,
Mm-hmm.
appears strong, and continues to have a push towards being great. And as the leader of the athletic department, the expectation is for greatness, and the expectation is for our young people to strive for greatness. And I talk to them all the time. I do talk to every single program, every single team, and I let them know that the one who wants to be good is it's okay to be good. But in order to be great, you got to do different things. You got to do something else. You got to sacrifice some things. And these are things that we talk about daily. We run an athletic leadership academy at Washburn High School in the summer. We had over 100 student athletes in this leadership academy. Now, this is a want to, this isn't a have to thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can get over 100 young people doing something because they want to do it, not because they have to do it, you're starting to turn the culture. You're starting to establish a culture, and you're starting to maintain a culture of excellence. And that's what Washburn has been able to do. Both when I was there as a player, student athlete, and as a coach, and then now that I'm the athletic director, it's the expectation, and my coaches know it, and my student athletes, now that I'm in year 4, all of them have heard it, and you all know consistency is the key, and I let them continue to hear what the expectations are every season, every year.
Who are some of the people that influenced you as you came up through the rank? It could be coaches, teachers, role models.
Yeah.
Who were some people that helped you along your path?
Yeah, we'll start with my parents. And my father, Elton Jenkins, is a 43-year employee of Minneapolis Public Schools and never missed a day's work. Um, I know the three of us sitting at this table have probably missed at least one day of work one time. So he in himself, that was my model of consistency. That was my model of doing it because you need to do it and it has to be done. And then the other things can wait by the side. You can be sick later. My dad used to say these type of things to us. There's time to be sick, but it's not right now. Things like that. My mom's a highly educated PhD level educator herself in Minneapolis. She has 2 professions. She was a rehabilitation counselor for blind people for 25 years, and then she was a teacher for 25 years in Minneapolis. So I have these role models from my own home, which a lot of us don't have. So I knew that I was really lucky and fortunate to have 2 really good role models within my house that I knew what the expectation was. I heard conversations of going to college, going to school, getting a good education. My father was a bus driver for the district for 43 years, so he would drive us places and show us what it looks like if you don't prepare for the future, because his route every day took him by these places in Minneapolis. The coaches in my life, there's so many of them. I can start right now thinking down at Martin Luther King Park with Arthur Slaughter, with Don, with coaches that with the sinkers. That's a South Side name. They own Pepitos, but those guys were so instrumental in our lives as youngsters that I can go on and on. Then we get up to like my high school years where we got Coach Jesse DeLeaner. Coach Jesse DeLeaner has been around Minneapolis forever. He's now, I believe, coaching at Bloomington Kennedy. He coached myself, Troy Bell, Adam Boone, you name it. He coached some of the best athletes in South Minneapolis, in the 90s. And we competed. Your Rob Mestises, you name it. He coached all of us. And then you go on into the head coaches of the high school team. I knew that when Peter Haugen took over Washburn High School in 1995, that it was going to be a program because he came from a college ranks from Bethel, and all he needed at that time, he just came in and kind of held the doors on, held the door shut, made sure everybody was in a room together doing what he wanted. But what he was doing is he was showing us the way to run a program. He was showing us that if you have periods and you have expectations, these kids will transition every 5 minutes. These kids will do what they're asked every five within a practice scheme. So those type of things, Coach Louis Boone. I mean, you talk about everybody. Coach Louis Boone, when I was in 10th grade, was so real to me. He said, I don't need you to be a scorer. I need you to play defense, and then you have a spot on this team. Well, we went on to win a state championship when I was in 10th grade, and I knew I had a role. So there's so many coaches that came into my life. I don't know if it's because I was one of the top athletes. I don't know if it's because I gave it my all, or I don't know if it's because they saw something in me outside of athleticism where I was a person that they could count on. I don't know which one it was, but I would like to think that the coaches that I had saw something in me. I reciprocated and I tried to work hard for them. And in turn, I knew I was going to be a coach or a leader, mentor type at one point because I could see it and I could feel it when I was younger.
Okay.
And you said that now you're an athletic director as well as a coach and juggling both balls. Has those balls been more difficult post-COVID as opposed to pre-COVID?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Difficult is an understatement. There's so many barriers that are put up, so many things that we as athletic administrators and coaches have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Just making sure that your young people are getting to point A to point B safely. Making sure that I remember the COVID year, we couldn't use lockers, so we had to have buckets, and we're asking our kids to put all of their belongings in these 5-gallon buckets, and we're putting 5-gallon buckets out on the football field, or because we can't be within 6 feet of each other, so each kid is basically carrying their bucket around. That's their locker. That's who they are, their belongings. So in volleyball, the kids couldn't sit within 6 feet from each other within a gym, so they were spread all over the place. And I took over right after COVID, so the COVID protocols were relaxed, but we still had some of the carryover from that. Um, yes, it's more difficult. People are still a little bit timid about certain things. What I do know is that because of COVID, we found out there's a lot of things we can do. We can get stuff expedited. We can order things from outside the store and they bring it out to you. We can do some of these things that at one point you couldn't order pizza from Papa John's and then walk it out to your car right there. You couldn't walk up to a drive-through. Every kid in Minneapolis at that point before COVID did not have a computer. So we know that things got a little bit better and things changed and we pivoted and I believe COVID showed us that with communication and with a plan, you can make it. And now that we're post COVID, there's not really a lot of things that linger from that in terms of how we administer sports and things like that in athletics. But there's definitely times when um, it becomes something that we as athletic administrators have to navigate in terms of how to move our kids sometimes. Transportation, I think, is our biggest hurdle right now in Minneapolis, just getting our kids from A to B. And I don't know if that's a post-COVID thing or not. It could be, a lot of drivers probably pivoted and went somewhere else because there were no jobs available in terms of driving and things. But transportation is tough. We all know money's tight everywhere, so I'm not going to say anything about money and finances. But getting your student athletes from point A to point B safely has been a huge hurdle for not only schools like Washburn High School that pretty much have the means to get their kids places, because parents can adjust their schedules. But you think about your schools on the other side of town that just don't have the same opportunities. That's what's been pretty difficult for student athletes in Minneapolis.
And how have you grown as a coach, as an administrator, as a person? Because you ask your players
Yes.
to do more and do better and improve. What have you done in your estimation that has made you better than you were a year ago or 2 years ago?
I listen a lot more. I listen. My two ears work way more than my mouth, and they serve me way more justice than anything right now. One thing I do, empathy, right? I empathize a lot, and I think that's huge. Another thing I do is I communicate. I'm an over communicator, but I think that helps me at times because nobody's really guessing what I'm thinking or how I need things, how we need things to be, and just overall maturity. I think now that emotional intelligence is important, I'm really in tune to that. I know that if I come in and I'm off a little bit, that ripple can go all the way down to my B squad, depending on which kids I interact with. So every single day, I have to be on. I tell myself in the morning, it's time to make a difference. I wake up to that. And I can now, with some real work, good work, mindfulness, and everything else, which is important, I can get myself redirected before I walk into the building. I would say 99% of the time. Obviously, I'm human, so there's things that come up. But I know what my purpose is. Like I was saying before, I never thought I would be an athletic administrator till the job became available. Now I know why I'm an athletic administrator. I know why I'm in this position. And I accept it and I love this job. To me, it's not a job, it's a calling.
Mm. As you look back, uh, it could be your coaching career, your career as an administrator, and your career as a student athlete. Um, can you think of any highlights? Anything that happened during that time that you'll never forget, that you remember, and that you probably learned something from?
So people think that because I won state, that's one of my biggest highlights. And it is as a player, right? But that stuff's so far behind. But from that day, I can tell you one thing I carry forward. I carry the fact that I'm a champion. And I tell myself I'm a champion every day, even when I wake up. And that's because from that day, you couldn't tell me anything different from the time I was in 10th grade. But what that did is it allowed me to be confident. It allowed me to go out. It allowed me to be okay to fail. It allowed me to accept failure. It allowed me to try hard and things like that because I knew that I was a champion and that I am a champion. My best year coaching was the year I coached 9th grade girls. I had Coach Tyler Coley was the head coach at the time. I had his 9th grade team, and they were very talented, this 9th grade group of girls. We were 29-3. We lost to Prior Lake 3 times this whole season. This group of girls was so dynamic that I knew that when they were in 10th and 11th grade, that they would backfill Chase Coley and the rest of those girls for Washburn High School, and that they would have a good opportunity to not only go to state, but win state. That year I coached those 9th grade girls was by far the best year I've ever had. And it's because I had to learn how to coach young women. I was coaching boys at the time. I had coached boys basketball. I coached football, but coaching young women is way different. You can't be as hard on them. You can't get them to run through the wall until they know you care. And once they know you care, they are just as athletic. They work just as hard as your boys do, or the boys that I've coached, and they are more in tune to the emotional side of the game, which allowed me to then listen to them, talk to them, ask them what they, let them have some say in the way practice was going to be run or things that they thought they needed to do. And from there was my check in. Every day we had a check in. And to me, that is one of the growth moments in my coaching career when I coached the girls. And now if I was to be a head coach again, I would do things differently. I was a hard coach when I was a football coach. We started practice with 100 up downs every practice. If I told either one of y'all to throw your body on this floor 100 times right now, you'd look at me like I was crazy. But my players knew they had to do that just for the whistle to start practice. So I was different, but we also had really good football teams. We had football players, and that was my way to kind of weed out the ones that were just trying to hang around and wear the uniform. I don't know if I would do that right now if I was a coach. I think with relationship building and things like that, there's a different way to get those kids to buy in than having them throw their body on the ground 100 times before practice. Yeah, they were dead tired, and I know they were tired, but I also wanted them to go through practice tired because the game is going to be hard and they're going to be tired in the game. So there was some psychology to that, but you fast forward 10, 15 years from that time, I would do things differently. Having done my own research, my own coaching at the college level, there's ways to get kids to buy in. And like I said, if they know you care, they'll do anything you need them to do to be successful.
That is true.
They talk about how kids today are so self-centered, or they give up easily. We have in college the transfer portal, and I've heard coaches complain about how, you know, they won't stick it out anymore if things don't go their way. They put themselves in the portal and they go somewhere else, and almost like you're at a different school every year. But you with kids every day. Are they self-centered? Do you see that? Do you see kids not wanting to push to their fullest, and they're willing to give up and then go somewhere else?
There's a lot to be said about times being different. There are kids, I would say, there are kids that do take the easy way out, that look for the easy button all the time, and there are kids that know how to push themselves through that, persevere and push themselves through that time of conflict or whatever it is. What I will say is that as a whole, I believe that our society is a lot softer. I believe that our society gives a lot more excuses. I believe that our kids listen to the people they're around more than their teammates, more than their coaches, more than the those of us that are in education. Although we spend 6 to 8 hours a day with them, they still listen to somebody else when they leave that building. They leave their confines of their team and things like that. It is okay to quit. A lot of them, and that's not me saying that. That's what they feel. And if you come to any setting with the mindset that it's okay to quit, you've already given yourself an out. So they're kind of looking for that out. We do a lot of work with our leadership academy with talking about all the type of things that they're going to face in life. And we are trying to dispel all of those rumors and all of those things that they've come to us with. We are trying to push them through. We are trying to get them to understand that perseverance. We are trying to get them to understand that leadership is important, that accountability is important, and things like that. A lot of times they want to blame other people. And what I say is, well, it's really not about what the other person said or did. How are you responding? Your response to every situation is what's important. So getting them to understand their response and how that looks and what that look and how that feels is really where we head. Yeah, we know they're coming with all the excuses. We know that because that's where we've changed. But we try really hard to meet them where they are and get them to understand a different way of life. A harder way of life is okay too. I like to tell them that a life without, what do I say? A life without struggle is a life that's not worth living. So you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have trials and tribulations. And if you want it easy all the time, it's gonna be tough at some point because easy runs out. If that means parents have a lot of money or whatever, and they give you all this money, well, then you don't know how to go get your own money. You
Right.
don't know how to work. You don't know how to
Right.
go feed yourself. Things like that. So there's a group of us at Washburn that still understand that yes, they're gonna come to us with these excuses or the way that they are living life. At the same time, we know what's some of the things that are best for them, which is why we try to keep the parents out of it as soon as we can at Washburn High School.
Now talk about the Leadership Academy.
Yeah.
What led into putting that together, and just talk about how that had and can that be replicated at other schools?
The answer to it being replicated at other schools is yes. Minneapolis has approached us, and because of the success that we've had over the 16 years that we've been running this leadership academy in some shape or form, the numbers have just grown in terms of the amount of kids that want to be there, that can see the value in it. It's a 6-week academy. It's 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. Now we've just changed this format. It used to be 5 days. It used to be 5 hours. We have now shortened it down to 4 days a week, 5 hours a day. We have a hour. We start with a 5-minute mindfulness exercise where it's led, it's guided, which is important because we have all 100 plus of them quiet. And they are, at first, they goof and they laugh a little bit and they snicker because it's kind of funny. You're in this room and you're expected to be quiet while all 100 plus of us are, you're hearing breaths, you're doing all these things. But by the end of the 6 weeks, they want it. They thrive for it because they can see the difference that it makes in just getting a young person to calm their nervous system. So we're trying to say, yeah, it's mindfulness, play the game, mental imagery, things like that. Put yourself in a positive state of mind if you had something going on at home while you came here. At the same time, we're trying to get them to understand that you can control how you react when you're nervous, when you're angry, when you can take a couple of deep breaths, you can redirect yourself so you don't let yourself get there. So that's just like the initial. From there, we have an hour of leadership, which my wife is a avid teacher, and she has Avid is a program that headhunts for first generation college
Yeah.
kids, and she has all these activities, and she has a plethora of things that she can do. So, if you think about our leadership academy, it's pretty much Avid on steroids because she is our leadership coordinator. Now, our pillars of our leadership are pride, professionalism, respect, integrity, determination, and excellence. So that's also the acronym that Washburn carries. So I didn't want to recreate the wheel. If our students are the same as our student athletes and we all are talking Miller Pride, well, then Miller Pride is good enough for the Leadership Academy too. So 5 of the 6 weeks, those are our pillars: professionalism, respect, integrity, determination, excellence. The first week is leadership. So we just hit them hard with leadership and what leadership means to them, and we do all these exercises and things like that. Then we get into these 5 pillars. Every week we bring in a guest speaker on that Thursday. And that guest speaker ties his talk, his speak, her speech, whatever it is, if they're alumni or not, it doesn't matter, back into what our focus was. So you know as well as I do, you can have whatever you're trying to bring the message, and you can usually spin it into professionalism, respect, integrity, or I just say, is there any way you can tie it back to this because you're going to be speaking in week 5? So that's how we start and that's how we end. First thing in the day and then the end of the week. Throughout the week, we have an hour of leadership. We have an hour of agility where they're doing explosive movements and balance and stuff like that. We have an hour of strength and conditioning, and then there's an hour of games. It's important to let young people relax and not always be adult centered and structured. So one of our coaches is a gym teacher, and then he just has games. They may be doing capture the flag, they may be doing kickball, they may be doing some, but for that hour, they get to be kids and compete and have fun. And so therefore it's not always work, 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 be tired and things like that. What you find out is they get to relax and be themselves. Yeah, they're competing, but during that game time, that's when we're kind of less structured. Yeah, the game is playing, but we're not on them in terms of being in line, being ready to go, counting off their reps. In the weight room, it's structured. We're counting off reps. We're moving to a cadence. We're moving. In the leadership, all coaches are in there. All student athletes are in there at once. It's important. We're showing you that all 100 plus of us will be in here with all of the staff at one time. Um, and then with the agility and things like that, that's where your rotation comes in. So the first hour will be everybody together. The next let's just say 3 hours, there will be a rotation where everybody moves between uh, the other aspects of the camp. And then in that last hour or 45 minutes, we let them have what's called we let them come in and they have their sport. So all the basketball players are done. They go to the gym. The volleyball players go to the upstairs gym. We get out the shooting machine, and now we got athletics centered for an hour. So whatever your sport is, you can go out get the balls and the bats, and you can go hit each other ground balls. We don't have a baseball field and stuff like that, but people bring their mitts. They play catch and things like that. So we have a sport specific aspect at the very end that then goes into that. In the summer, our coaches can coach. So it goes into a practice. Our coaches come in, and then now you have they were just doing whatever they were doing for 45 minutes, and that can lead into your 2 hour practice if you want, if you're a coach. Or if you're a coach and you want to be there for that 45 minutes of, let's just call it sport specific,
Mm-hmm.
coach can technically kind of run a practice or start to run his practice through shooting drills or other things. So we're just trying to make sure that when we have them there, coaches can come here. We feed them twice. We feed them pre-workout and post-workout proteins and stuff like that. Quick carbs at the beginning. We know we all don't come from the same place. So we took the guest game out of it. We got funding to where they can have everything they need to be ready to lift and everything their body needs at the end of it, because we know we all don't come from the same place and have the same food at home. So we're gonna, if we're asking you to come work out, we're gonna make sure your body has the nutrients needed for it to be beneficial.
Mm.
So
Now, I did notice as I was looking on Facebook that one of our previous guests was one of your guests, the Gilreys.
yeah, yes,
They were Suzanne and Suzette. They
yes,
were there. They were there. Presenting
yes,
and helping, which was very 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 good to see.
yes.
Um, who else have you had?
So Rashid Hageman and Chase Coley came to speak this year.
Okay. Okay.
Suzanne and Suzetta Gilreath.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Galen Elmore, who I coached at Minnesota University of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Jesse Ross. We've had Coach Keenan Moore, who is an athletic administrator who was a longtime coach of Washburn High
Yeah.
School and is
Yeah.
now over at Community of Peace Academy in
Yeah.
St. Paul. Just became an administrator, but he came in and spoke on professionalism this year.
Okay. Cool.
So what we try to do is we try to get people. Now it's kind of interesting you ask. Now I have people reaching out to me,
Of course.
wanting to give back, wanting to come back and bleed into these young people,
Of course.
which is great because I now have people in a Rolodex who I can call for the next 2 years. We're talking 12 people. I got 6 weeks of speakers already lined up
Mm-hmm.
if I want to use them just
Yes.
because of the momentum we have. So Jameson Whiting. Jameson Whiting is now on our staff, but
Yeah.
he came and spoke 2 years ago.
Okay.
So now what we're seeing is we're seeing the ones who went through it as student athletes are now coming back wanting to give back their own testimonials. But some of them are professionals, like your JMOs, like your
Mm-hmm.
Rashids, like your Chase Coleys, like that, and they've gone either professional athletes or professionals in life,
Mm-hmm.
and they're coming back with their own trials and their own testimonials and their own experiences, what only strengthens our message in terms of the things we're trying to get them to understand. Plus, young people want to hear from other young people. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
to always hear from the adults or the
Oh my
people
goodness.
who
Yes.
who coached them.
Yes.
Even though in their talks and in the stuff that they present to our young people, they will tell you, just listen to Coach Jenkins, listen to Coach Kimmick, listen to Coach Galindo, listen to Coach whoever, because they were there for me. These young people nowadays, or young people, period, don't listen until it's somebody else. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the mom and the dad. Go shoot your shots, go shoot your 1,000 shots. You're gonna be a good shooter if you do. But then somebody else comes in and says, you know, you should really shoot 1,000 shots a day. Now you see that kid out there shooting shots because somebody else decided to tell him, right?
Yes.
They listen to other people. So it's the same thing in education and coaching and things like that. The minute you bring in an alumni or somebody who's done some things else outside of these walls of our institution, it strengthens our message. So there's been a bunch of them. in the
Okay.
in the now the 3 years that I've revitalized this leadership academy, we've had a lot of good ones that have come in.
Okay.
So
Uh, like I said, we know that the district has been going through some change. They got new leadership at the top. Um, how do you see MPS this year and moving forward?
I think MPS is in good hands. I think that we will get to where we need to be to make sure our student athletes have what they need. Change doesn't happen overnight. You know, you got to turn this big ship around. You can't turn the Titanic around like this. You know, it's not a speedboat. So in time, I believe the district will be exactly where it needs to be. And I'm excited to see where the growth of the district goes. I've been a part of it as a student athlete myself. Now I've been working within the district for 23 years, and I love the district. I love everything about it. So I'm excited to see where we go.
You don't look old.
I'm 47. I'll tell you that my body feels old. It does. I'm just at the point now where I had to retire from running and playing basketball. My hip, I found out that I need to have hip replacement. So,
Wow.
what I tell people is that I guess in 47 years I wore the first one out, so I must have been pretty good. So, so no, but you know, I don't feel old. Sometimes when I go to work and I see young people, they revitalize me, they rejuvenate me, they fill up my cup.
It's true.
That's when I know that I'm doing the right thing. Yeah, I wake up sore and things like that, but that's something I can get over. It's the point when I know that young people are doing for me as I'm doing for them. Um, the thank yous, that they give me, I give right back to them. When they tell me that I inspire them, well, yeah, my why is to inspire others to be the best version of themselves. I mean, that's my why. That's why I wake up every day. But they also do the same to me. So it's reciprocated, and I let them know that. And I believe when you're honest with young people and they can feel it, um, you don't worry about things like your bones aching and your knees hurting and things like that. I get up every day. I work 12-hour days. I probably work 4 or 5 of them a week, but it's a calling, right? If it's not work, then you know as well as I do, you'll do anything it takes to make sure young people have what they need. So,
Well, we always offer our guests an opportunity to speak to our listeners and our audience to share with them pearls of wisdom, things that you want them to be able to gain from watching us and listening to us, that you feel that they can walk away and add to their lives.
mm.
So we give that opportunity to speak to our audience.
One thing I would say is treat people with respect, be kind, treat people how you would like to be treated. You can get around the world 3 or 4 times being nice to people. If you are not a nice person and you hold grudges and you uh, have an ulterior motive, it will it will be seen, it will be noticed, and you will possibly be left right where that person meets you. But if you're a genuine person and you have a heart and you can empathize with people and you can see that human people are human, no matter where they come from, no matter their skin color, no matter their socioeconomic status, things like that, you have a really good chance at being a productive part of society. And we can change in one day. We can change in one week. We can change in 1 month. We can change in 1 year. You can change who you are and who you want to be whenever you decide to change. So
Good. Well, we want to thank you for coming.
thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you for sharing your experiences with us.
Appreciate it.
And we'll probably ask you again.
Yeah, well, I'm willing. I'm willing and able.
Probably ask you again. And we want to thank you all for watching and listening. Uh, I'm Dr. Mitchell Palmer McDonald.
I'm Charles Hallman, and we thank you for being on Blacklight on Sports. And please continue to read us. We're in the paper every week and hope to see us soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's good.